what games we'll be having up over the course of the night. Starting off, it is going to be Emprox going up against Downfall, and as we're saying, Downfall need to be able to take this one and also in them take a win in their matchup against Outlaws next week to potentially take that third spot on the ladder. And after that, we have the Rich Gang E-Thugs taking on Crimson. Crimson already secured their spot over in Rio earlier on Tuesday, so it's just about pretty much maintaining that dominant play that we've been seeing from Crimson so far, Vandy.
It has to be, yes. Crimson, they've been really, really strong in their lineup, and I think for them it was like a major bit of a breakthrough when they came up against Outlaws again to clinch that victory. So we're feeling good for them, but I guess everyone's thinking about Mindfreak now and who's going to be the one to take them out.
Yeah, it is going to be an interesting matchup. When they do come up against each other, we will be seeing that next week, but let's start off the night with this first series. Emprox going up against Downfall. I think we're about ready to get into this first draft as we can get this one started off. But what are our thoughts coming into this one? Because Emprox, they're trying things and it's not really working out so far, but we want to be seeing some, I guess, development from them, especially if they are going to end up in that crucible.
That's right, in their relegation series. So what that means is for everyone, or for people who might not be familiar with the way that this is going to work, is the lowest two teams in Premier Division will come up against the top two teams in Open to fight for their spot to stay or to be then demoted down into the Open Division till they can get a chance to get back up into Premier. So it keeps things interesting. It also gives teams in Open Division something to play for, but there's teams hungry to take your spot if you're not going to be able to perform. So that's exactly as you said, Emprox would be looking to try and get some victories, really start to shape it up. I know they had a bit of a rough start with a lot of team changes coming out. I mean, we had Stumpgod leaving the team. We also then had a couple of roster changes. Quality had to fill in as well as a sub. So they've had a pretty roller coaster ride, but they've been pretty consistent in their lineup from the last couple of weeks. But still looking to get that victory.
Yeah, exactly. We're still waiting for them to get that victory to really at least give them the confidence heading into those potential relegation matches, because we're looking at the teams at the bottom of the ladder. There's Rich Gang and there's also Emprox. Both of them have rather rough schedules to finish off their season, so it's looking very likely that they'll be in those relegation matches. And as I was saying, we need to see some kind of development from this team. Hopefully with this extra time together, they're going to be able to put at least some consistency together, but yeah, it hasn't looked great so far.
See how we go. I mean, what I'm a little bit worried about, though, heading into this first game, we're just waiting for the players to give us the all ready, by the way, so we can jump into it. But we already know that we're going to Volskaya Foundry. And by the looks of things, this was picked by Downfall. Looking at their match history on this map, we've got a 3-1 sort of history on them. So very, very confident on this map.
Yeah, it is one of those maps that, as you can see from their record, it is a map that they tend to favor and has shown pretty damn good results on it. And it does tend to play into a lot of the tendencies of their hero pools, I guess, because looking at a lot of the different teams throughout this region, Downfall is one of those teams that they've got a very, very wide hero pool. Whether or not you can attribute that to being a good or a bad thing, it is just one of those things where they have a very wide hero pool, so they are very adaptable when it comes to a draft, as we are finally getting into it. Blue side is going to be Emprox, red side is Downfall. Let's get into this draft.
I'm very excited, and I'm also glad that you brought that up. Yeah, in terms of the hero pool that we've been seeing played out of Downfall, they've got a shared hero pool between the whole team of 51. I think most teams, they average about that 40, sometimes even in the high 30s. So yeah, they really have tried out quite a variety of heroes. And even when I've been keeping track, I'm like, oh, interesting. It's just been like a couple of like, oh, we're just going to pick this for the map, or we pick this because we think it'd be a good counter pick to what we've been seeing in the match itself. So that's something that teams really need to respect. You can't really get them out on draft. So then if you're giving them the map choice, this is where things can look a little bit hairy for Emprox.
Yeah, and there are also those moments where Downfall just kind of throw caution to the wind, throw in a butcher, throw in some weird thing that I guess Blaze kind of cooks up that we're not really expecting. Yeah, exactly. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but they are in 4th place on that ladder, so more often than not, things seem to be working out for them, as we are going to be getting that first ban coming in from Emprox. And Garrosh has been very strong over the past couple of months. Looks like they just want to just get it right off the bat. They do not want anything to do with that one.
I'm not too surprised with the way the meta's sort of shifted and Garrosh, all eyes turning onto him. Just that I guess, AoE taunt can be so devastating, but also the tankiness that he brings. We were seeing a lot of Blaze play before Garrosh came in, but with the changes to Blaze, really then Garrosh shot up to being the tank of choice. So a lot of teams, they're feeling the pressure as well. He can also make you play quite safe in that early game just due to his zoning potential with that Groundbreaker and Wrecking Ball combo. So teams, yeah, as you said, don't want to be able to deal with that. And we've got a mean record as well on the side of Flays with his Garrosh win rate, sitting at 75%.
Yeah, it's pretty damn good. And yeah, as you mentioned, Garrosh, he makes you not want to push forward, because if you step forward a little bit too far, all of a sudden you're looking at your enemy keeps, and it's just not a fun situation. And the Phoenix is going to be the first pick on the side of Emprox. We've seen it a little bit already here in the ANZ region. The record so far is not that great. It's a 3-4, but considering those 4 losses are all on just one team, I'm not entirely sure where we can really stand at this point for that hero.
I think now, with the amount of time that Phoenix has been out now, a lot of teams are really wising up that his worst enemy is dive. Yes, he has that blink to get away, but it's still a channeled blink. And after he's used that, you can just potentially zone him out. Also, the damage changes to himself makes him a lot easier to deal with, I guess. Not as, I guess, the damage coming out of him, it's just so much to deal with now. He's at a manageable sort of state. So I think that was a buff in the right direction. Really means that Phoenix players have to be on their toes. Medivh ban, also want to talk a little bit about. That was a really interesting first ban, and it also just shows that that's kind of respecting that mad scientist synergy that Downfall have got. They've brought out Medivh previously, although I can't remember if it was on Volskaya Foundry before. But just saying off the bat, we're not going to deal with this. Picking up Tyrael and Sonya for themselves as well, very strong openers. Absolutely.
So they do have a rather considerable front line. The Sonya is going to be really good in that soul lane. There's very few things that can kind of handle that Sonya on their own. So a very powerful pick on the side of Downfall. And the Tyrael, the shielding is still very good. Even though it did cop a nerf in some of the more recent patches, it is still very helpful. And also just the amount of utility that Tyrael can have can make it very hard to really punch through with these compositions. But just going back to the Phoenix point, we have seen it throughout the other major regions. It has had some rather middling results. It's only been like a few players here and there, like Rich over in Korea, who really makes it look the overwhelming force that everyone was very much fearing when he was in those first couple of weeks out. But we're seeing teams start to deal with it, as you mentioned, with the dive, and even things like Hanzo, who can just do enough damage from afar to make it so Phoenix can't really get a lot of that damage out.
I really like these picks coming out from Emprox. That Stukov and Maiev, that combination goes so well together. In fact, I had that very same combo in a Hero League game last evening, and it was not enjoyable to be on the receiving side of that. Pretty much the Warden's Cage into that lurking arm silence mean that you're just stuck. There's not going to be a lot you can do if you've got enough burst as well. And if they set this one up right, Phoenix are going to be so happy this game.
Could we even see a potential Planet Cracker to just run it straight through that cage? I mean, there are some potential setup combos to go along with that Phoenix. The Salvo also plays very well off that lurking arm because of the slows. So you can get a decent amount of damage to go along with that. And now we're just getting into the second round of bans. The Nubarak is actually a hero that has popped up a fair bit over the past couple of weeks. He did kind of drop off with things with the Blaze Tyrael meta that we saw from tanks, but now he's really starting to make a bit of a comeback.
Dive is back, yeah, so by binding that one out as well. Really, I'm just seeing from Downfall, they really respect that dive potential, Medivh's ability to portal into their backline. So I'm thinking they're going to have a pretty delicate backline and really focus a lot on that Sonya and Tyrael to lead the charge. Genji, yeah. That's one that a Nubarak could really shut down, and also the Medivh as well.
Yeah, they still have tools to dive onto that Phoenix, make his life a little bit of a living hell. But the Morales is a bit of an interesting one there, Vandy.
Yeah, well, that really then signifies why they were banning out a Nubarak. Really, if I was looking at the Genji, if I was looking at the Morales, both of them can be so punished, so shut down by the Cocoon. So that's why they took that one off the board. But this is almost one of those high-risk sort of playstyles coming on in. As we know, Morales, not the best mobility. You're now looking at that Maiev, and then we can then potentially pair him up. We know that Christo really likes playing his ETC. Hasn't been banned out, still on the board.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Maybe it's a setup for a last pick that they just want to make sure that they know what they're going up against before they want to pick it. So Downfall leaving a bit of a flexible pick at the very end. which is also a little bit of a risk picking up that Morales, because as you mentioned, that Maev should be able to get onto her and make her life a little bit of a living hell, but we're now going to see how Emprox rounds out their composition. They still need their front line.
I'm expecting the ETC, but I'm wondering who they want for their solo laner.
Yeah, the ETC is picked up. It's actually going to be a Xayah, so they want
That's a weird one.
a little bit of extra assistance, and it's actually going to be a hammer.
It wasn't even hesitation right there.
No, they knew what they wanted.
And that's Shrek play. Oh. I'm sure the swaps are coming on through. But the Zarya is very, very interesting to me because already I'm thinking, okay, it's going to be either picked to once again boost that Maev, or also boost that Phoenix up. We know that Zarya, she can almost fill that role that Tacita would give, except she's that front liner as well. So that was really something that they were utilizing for their composition, but she's more of that niche pick. So I'm wondering, in my head, I see exactly what Emprox are going for. I'm wondering if they can pull it off though, because if they can, it's going to be spectacular. Yeah,
they have quite a few tools at their disposal to really get these fights going on. And it looks like it is a more sustained damage and it's just sustain on the side of Emprox, that they want these fights to go a reasonable distance. And on the map like False Sky, you will get those kind of engagements around those objective points, trying to get those Triglav protectors. You do get those fights that do drag out, and when you have a lot of extra shielding, some healing as well, they have tools to get these fights to go the distance, but whether or not they can actually stick around, when you have a Genji diving around, you have a Sonya and a Hammer just doing all sorts of damage, it could be a little bit tough for them.
It could, and I'm really, really interested. It is going to be Shrek playing that Sergeant Hammer. Shrek has normally been known to be the supporting player of Downfall. So I'm wondering if this is just a grand scheme to expand their hero pool roster by, or team roster by allowing others to try different roles, or where they're sort of going with this. Or has Shrek always just been a Sergeant Hammer god, and we just about to experience it?
Yeah, I don't know, but let's get into this one. It is game one of the night, and it is going to be on the blue side, Emprox. It is going to be Chriso on the ETC. The Ratsa is on Maev. ADS on Xayah. Hashtag on Stukov. And Touch Me is on the Phoenix.
And on the right side, in red, we have Downfall with Flaze playing Tyrael, Shrek playing Sergeant Hammer, Magic Gnome on Genji, Superfish playing Sonya, and Konya on Lieutenant Morales.
Yeah, it's a bit of an interesting bit of a role swap we have coming out for Downfall. I have to see how it goes, and I'm just interested to see how this Hammer is going to play out. She can be a fair way away from the fight and influence those very extended engagements on the point, which could be very important as we get later and later into this game. And looking at the way these level 1s are set up, it looks like Downfall, they just don't want to be dealing with it just yet.
No, they haven't sent everyone mid, and instead they want to pocket that Hammer. So that's pretty much going to be the name of the game that I'm going to see coming out from Downfall here. It's going to be pocket that Hammer as much as possible. They really do have the tools as well. Flaze as well. Flaze on that Tyrael will also help in terms of giving that defensive boost to Hammer.
Yeah, and we've got a very consolidated 4-man rotation coming out for Emprox. They want to try and make some play happen, but right now it's just not really working out. Whereas on the top side, Touch Me takes a lot of damage from that Sonya. He does have the range to harass away this Sonya, but should that spear land, it does it again, and the Phoenix can be very, very squishy.
He can, and that's exactly what Superfish would be looking to take advantage of. This is where, I guess, the Zarya pick, you can start to see why Zarya is more of that niche pick. It just really hurts then your potential for that solo laner.
As we do have an engagement onto Shrek, as he is going to be dragged in, but with the Morales there, going to be unimpeded to get all of that healing, and now they're going to start turning it around as ADS is dropped very low. Magic Name goes in with that dash, but doesn't finish him off, but with all the healing and the shielding there, it's just going to be a little bit too tough for them to deal with as they go in. A great power slide onto 2 and a great lurking arm, but they are just going to keep on smacking away at each other. A lot of the damage is going down onto the members of Emprox, and they're going to be forced away before they can really do any significant damage to members of Downfall.
Konya as well, able to stay in the backline, safe as you like, and heal up Shrek, who was taking the brunt of the damage, actually being a tank right there. Both in the name, as well as soaking up all that damage.
Yeah, able to just keep on applying pressure as the Unstoppable does get popped, so he will be able to get away from that power slide as the Ratchet is taking a lot of damage, tries to get in with that Umbral Bind and get some work going. As Touch Me is going to come down as well, and now Konya is going to be under attack from this Phoenix, but on those conveyor belts can't really stay within range and has to shift away as rather interesting start to this game.
Been good pressure coming on out, but that's going to be a whole wave missing that top lane, so I'm not really sure if it was worth because no kills were traded, so this punishes Emprox now.
Yeah, they're going to keep on wailing away these towers, get some of that earlier experience as they are going to try and take down Ratzer, as Magic Gnome does go in. He does manage to get the dash out, and that is going to be the first blood coming out for Downfall.
And they're still sitting pretty, so really that hammer is going to be that movable force, with Konya being able to heal him up. Where their slight window will be is, as you can see, when Konya has no energy left, or if they can then focus him with the dive that they'll get. So it's still early days, but I'm just hoping that Emprox go back to lane, start soaking, because they need that level 10.
Yeah, they are a little bit reliant on those heroics and trying to get a big play to happen, but right now with Shrek on that point as that hammer, making it very hard for anyone on Emprox to get anywhere close. ADS is making his way towards the mid lane, but he's quite low and has to be very careful. The healing coming out from the Stukov, he's trying to get it going, and with all the members there, the one good spread, talent at level 4 is going to help out, but still there's quite a lot of damage coming through from Downfall, and it's a little bit hard for them to deal with at this point.
There's Downfall as well. Now backing off the point. They do have Sonya working on the Mercamp, as is Touch Me. It's all being mirrored. They also want to get that turret right there.
They want to
trying to get a bind as well.
Flaze is fine. He is going to get himself out of there. And they're not really going to be able to get too much advantages out of this. And throughout all of that, Emprox were not able to secure the objective. So they weren't really accruing any of the percentage on the point. And they are just going to get forced away. Crystal takes so much damage from the efforts of Downfall, and they are just forcing them away. It's very hard for Emprox to get in there. Ratzer tries to make a play, the Unstoppable does get brought out, so he will be able to keep on applying the damage, and I'm just trying to find a way for Emprox to really get these fights to go in their favor.
Emprox as well, the poke that they have, it's pretty much, it's all going to be up onto Phoenix, right? So that makes it very, very difficult to start to bully. They've got that all-in sort of composition.
Yeah, they do manage to get the power slide onto Shrek, but he's already out of there, so not going to be able to get taken out from that, as Hashtag is going to be the first one to go down in this fight, and that is the support down. That's the healing out of the way, and they are just going to start picking up the scraps as they are trying to take down ADS. The Triglove has been secured. They pick down the Xayah. That is another kill, and this is just going from strength to strength for Downfall. They are going to be able to push down this middle lane. It's very hard for Emprox to hold on to this one.
It will be, especially, as I said, once you do lose that fight, now who's going to be clearing out this gigantic protector coming your way? You really have to be in that melee range. Ratzer popped Vault of the Wardens just to stay alive there. That's just how much pressure is coming on through this middle lane.
Yeah, and throughout all of this, Shrek and Konya on the bottom side, they're going to keep on pushing on that fort on the bottom side. So they're very much going for the min-max style, trying to get as much experience as they can from this play. They are going to be able to take down this middle keeper with this protector and still do a decent amount of work, as this is just a very tough position for Emprox.
Ratzer trying to make some plays there, but he gets bullied off. With Konya and Shrek together, it's going to be very, very hard to crack that one by yourself. It's not really much you can do, and they're really bleeding out experience from all lanes just due to the pressure. This could be good if they can get this kill here.
They're trying to get in onto Superfish, but he does manage to get out. Konya there with the help, and throughout all of this, Touchdown on the Phoenix has just been on an island in that top lane, not really helping out as the leap goes in, as they do get a good lockdown. The massive bullet comes through, doing a decent amount of damage. They aren't going to be able to finish anyone off, but it does force them away, and this gives access over to Downfall into the mercenary camps of Emprox.
Downfall can now play quite aggressively with that level 10 heroic unlocked and that level experience that they still got themselves. You can see it's very, very difficult for Emprox to try and respond. How are they going to apply any pressure when they still don't have their heroics? And they're really needing to play passively.
Yeah, they are trying to force away the members of Downfall, but they don't have too many tools to work with. They do clear up the minions just in time, so they won't be able to push on too much further, I believe, but they are going to keep this siege going. They do have the healing coming up from Konya, but it is going to be, the damage is being split, so it's forcing Konya to split his attentions. It does look like Ratzer wants to go in. He's taking a lot of damage and gets slashed, and he gets taken down as the sanctification gets dropped down, but feels like it was a little bit unnecessary as the fight was already done, and this is going to allow Downfall to keep on pushing, and they want a very early keep here.
I mean, with how confident Downfall playing, I'm wondering if they've practiced this one before or if they're really trying to challenge themselves.
Well, the expulsion zone does get popped. It separates some of the members of Downfall, but they're not able to really secure anything. no one from Emprox is able to step forward because Shrek is just so safe to just wail upon anyone doing all that damage, as they do manage to get themselves away, as they are going to be able to hold on to their keep, Emprox, but only just.
Konya finally out of that energy as well, but it doesn't even matter. That's Downfall's sign to get the heck out of there. And I mean, I'm actually really surprised with how much trouble this combination is giving Emprox. I understand that in the early game, it's going to be harder for them with these heroics. I'd like to start to see them apply that dive, take out the morales, and then finally they can deal with that hammer. But the damage might have already been done with how much experience has already gone Downfall's way.
Yeah, and it looks like Emprox are trying to make a play somewhere, realizing that this is probably one of the few opportunities that they can get something to happen, as they are on even talent tiers, as we do have the Dragon Blade coming through. A Mosh Pit does lock that down with the Planet Cracker. They are going to do a decent amount of damage as they lock them into the cage, but they're not able to finish anyone off. The leap lands on several members, as ETC is going to be the first one to go down. They do take down the Sonya in return, but they're just losing member after member. They don't have enough durability right now, and they're going to be cleaned up in the 1-for-4 fight going over to Downfall.
I just have to point out one thing. The Planet Cracker went off, Magic Gnome popped his deflect and said, thank you very, very much. Right back into his own team. That's got to feel bad.
Yes, and that is going to be the first keep of the game, going down in a very quick manner, considering how this map usually tends to go. And they are also had the opportunity to head up and start working the way towards that objective, getting themselves potentially a second Triglav Protector. But with that fight, now it's in a much worse position for Emprox. They're down levels, they are now down a talent tier, and that was probably one of the best opportunities they would have had considering the state of the game.
It was, but really they need to just... It's the same thing when you've got that Li Ming as well. You can't really be affording to pick such a high damage heroic and then just reflect it right back into your team. At least try and point it away. But the damage had already been done, and that was just so much damage that then came back their way. And it was then a field day for Magic Gnome trying to get those resets.
Or they try to make the engage happen. It's a bit of ability throwing left, right, and center, not landing all that much, as Sanctification gets dropped as well, as heroics are dropped, but nothing really comes of it. And it is going to be back to, I guess, even keel at this point. But Downfall are just going to be able to keep on pushing forward, while Konya is pretty safe to just stand on that point. The rest of the team is okay to keep it going, keep this pressure going, with Emprox a little bit scared to make a play.
I wouldn't say scared, but just happily able to zone off right now. They don't really need to do much, but they'd be looking to get that 13 before they have to fight again. Paul's now just being called out for the time being, so we can just take, I guess, stock stand and look at things. We've only got a 1 kill being picked up on the side of Emprox with 8 on the side of Downfall. That kind of tells a tale of how the game has been going so far. All the chances that we see Emprox trying to go in, they're just being completely rebuffed, and Konya has a lot to do with that, with how much healing he's been pumping out. Yeah,
that Morales has also been able to keep safe, so a lot of this engage has been tempted to go onto that Sergeant Hammer, but with all the tools at their disposal, they're able to get out a lot of that crowd control. And with Konya being safe throughout a lot of these fights, he's able to pump out all that healing and make it so much harder for Emprox to really get anything happening. As you mentioned, just 1 kill in this game, and it was in that big fight that we saw just there.
Well, we also saw with who was caught out in that mosh pit, Konya was nowhere near that, and that was really the high priority target they were looking for. When he's sitting back, he can still heal through the majority of that. But on the flip side, we actually start to see it. This is exactly how Emprox were trying to play that one. It was going to be mosh overlapping with the Warden's cage, and then you called it, the Planet Cracker maybe coming on out. If they can then get another chance, they have the damage, they have the tools to be able to do it. They just need that one good fight.
Yeah, it's getting harder and harder for them. They do have the tools, as you mentioned, to try and get that big wombo. The Mosh was very good. It locked down 2 very high impact players, and as you mentioned, it did, well, the Planet Cracker did come across, but with everyone bouncing around left, right, and center in that Warden's cage, it did kind of lose some of its value, some of the members getting shunted out of it, and as you mentioned, the Genji just reflecting a lot of it. It was a bit of an awkward situation, but they have this idea for what they want to do with this composition. It's just that early game was so very rough for them that it's not, they're already put in such a hole that it's very hard for them to really set up that perfect team fight for them.
It was indeed, and this is going to be, I guess, a good chance. If they can pick up that 13, this is going to be the window of opportunity that we'd be looking for. So hopefully, once the game gets back into it, right back in the swing of things, it'll be a much nicer sort of situation. We're just trying to figure out where our admins are so we can get back into this game.
Trying to figure out who's the ref in this to make the unpause. So we're just pretty sure it's not us because we're just observers, right?
Mm-hmm.
We should be able to get into it very shortly.
Just having a look at some of the talents as well.
Yeah,
see if anything really jumps out at me.
The
Not
one
really.
that-
Everyone's kind
Yeah,
of
everyone,
built
yeah.
quite stock standard. It was really just that choice of Planet Cracker. I was thinking, would we see the salvo? It made sense, but yeah. And also the leap coming out from Superfish. But that really works to their composition with such squishy backlines to put the pressure on to touch me.
Yeah, one thing I do want to notice is that Chriso on the ETC has opted to go for the block party instead of the prog rock. So they're not going to be able to have that extra source of healing as the game goes on. But they will have those block stacks, which could help out against the hammer. But I feel as though with how this is going, that's not really... that's not how these fights are playing out. It's just they don't have the sustainability in these fights. They have the healing coming out from the Stukov, the shields here and there from Zaya, but with how much damage is coming from so many different sources, it's just a little bit too much for them to deal with over these fights. As we are finally back into the game, as 50% of the point has been secured for the side of Downfall, as they're trying to get a player onto plays, but he is going to be able to walk himself away. As the Expulsion Zone, Magic Gnome just goes dashing straight through it. He does even bring out the Dragon Blade. Was it Dragon Blade? He did have some bit of a slash, but we're just going to keep the fight going as Chriso does get a slide onto two members, but they're not able to secure anything. So many members of Downfall are just so healthy, and then they just turn on a dime. They clean up three members at the drop of a hat. Ratsu is going to be the last one to go down. That is a 5-0 fight coming up for Downfall.
Downfall, they just walked away with that one, and we could see as well, Emprox didn't even get a chance to get that all-important level 13. So that pressure coming out in that bottom lane in the form of the catapults, but with this protector as well, it's going to be a free one, and there's going to be no one to really defend it. So there's going to be more structural advantage coming their way.
Yeah, it looks like they just want to push it straight in onto the base of Emprox. They don't really have anything to stop them. As you mentioned, the talent tiers very much looking in favor of Downfall levels as well. And now that they have this big thing, or big Triangle Protector coming in to help them out, it's going to be very hard for Emprox to hold onto their base. They're taking damage, so much damage. Chriso having to back himself away. Magic Gnome trying to dash in, trying to poke a little bit with that Genji, but he's just waiting for the rest of the team to show up. They get two members into that Triglove. The Expulsion Zone is going to get dropped, but look at the damage coming in from that Triglove Protector. ADS having to be forced away. And we look at the damage coming in from the members of Downfall, and they're just not able to sustain through it. The side of Emprox, and now they're in a position where they can just start punching away at this core. It's slowly losing its shield. The Blunt Force Gun does go through, almost drops down. Chriso, Touchme's going to be the next one to go down. He does manage to get the shift out of there, so he's going to be forced all the way back to the Wall of Storms. But with everyone out of the way, they are actually going to go straight in onto finishing this game, and Moshpit does get dropped. He's going to fall immediately. The Stim Drone onto the Hammer is going to be just the final nail in the coffin. They finish off the rest of Emprox. A great Planet Cracker just to... it's just a bit of a light show at this point as the first game goes over to Downfall.
That was very, very decisive. Won that top fight, wasted no time taking that protected down to that pathway that they already opened up. And the rest is, I guess, history, as we know. This is why Downfall, I guess, prefer Volskaya Foundry. And they even showed, didn't even matter if their main support was playing that Sergeant Hammer, they were still more than happy, more than capable to take...
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the HGC ANZ Premier Division. Sorry for the short delay. We had just a few technical issues to work out, but we are going to be getting into Game 2 between Emprox and Downfall. Downfall took the first one in rather dominant fashion, and now we're going to get onto Infernal Shrines, Vandy.
I like this map, and as does a lot of the ANZ scene. It's kind of become one of our staples, and I think that a lot of teams feel it's very, very balanced in the way it's designed and laid out. So this will be, I guess, a nice reset for Emprox.
Yeah, and it does kind of function in a similar way to what Volskaya does, with you have a certain point on the map where you are just going to start fighting around. It's sure the nuances of it are a little bit different, but it does function in a rather similar way where you can often opt to go for that objective, or you can go elsewhere and try and get your advantages elsewhere, which we'll have to see how it goes when we finally get into the draft and how a lot of these teams want to play it out.
It will be. Also, I was just having a quick peek into how the teams have performed traditionally on this map. Neither team's not too confident on them. I mean, both teams actually have quite a similar win-loss ratio on this map. So this is what I mean by this is going to be a nice reset for Emprox, but also on the side of Downfall as well. Let's see if they've crafted any sort of weird, cheesy solutions for this one, because that last game, their composition, it was super cheesy, but it worked.
Yeah, it worked out. And you were talking about the maps, and this is going to be picked by Emprox, so they not necessarily valuing that first pick as highly as you probably would have had in the past, but they are wanting to go for this map, and that means that we will have Downfall as the first pick once we get into the draft, and I think we're ready to get into it.
Are we going to see another Phoenix, you believe?
Oh, I wouldn't mind it. I mean, he does have a lot of power behind him. The numbers are pretty damn good, but as we've been seeing over the past couple of weeks, or past week, I guess, teams have just realized that you can just go all in on him and make his life a living hell, and he can fall very quickly.
I mean, he does have that shield, yes, but once that's gone, that is an incredibly squishy health bar that you're dealing with, and that kind of is the drawback of him and why they gave him that blink. A lot of people are saying, oh, he doesn't need a blink. I agreed when I first saw the state of his damage numbers, but now I'm like, okay, it's all kind of fit into place now.
I will say that the distance that you can cover with that blink is probably a bit much, but also the fact that it can be very easily interrupted, as we've seen throughout the past week of games from all the regions throughout the world. He can get locked down so easily, and once you lose out on that blink, you are a sitting duck, and unless you have enough tools at your disposal, like we've seen in the game previously, they had the Xayah to try and help out. They had the potential healing and the body blocking from the EDC and the Stukov, but it just wasn't really enough to keep this Phoenix alive.
And at Medivh as well, being first ban, so just for repetition coming out from Downfall, really respecting that. Don't mind, even if this might not be his map or something like that. I'm actually interested by the Medivh ban because there's not really, I think we've only seen Emprox play Medivh once, and that was ads on it. So very interested to why they think that Emprox is playing that Medivh, or it's just that respect ban.
And now we get Phoenix as the first pick for the side of Downfall. Now we'll have to see how they end up going with this hero, see if they can tap into some of the power that it has. And now I just have to wait and see what Emprox do try and counter that with. We saw the Medivh Stukov, well, not the Medivh, the Maiev Stukov as one of the earlier rotations coming up for them. Will we see that again from them on this draft?
Hard to say. I wonder if they're going to take a totally different direction or if they felt they were strong enough. But it was just, we saw a couple of executional errors coming out on Emprox. So if they can at least settle that and then bring it back, that's what I'd like to see them, if they are going to run the same.
Explosive nature in the Junkrat coming out for Emprox.
It is. Junkrat. This is a very interesting one to be picked so high, I guess, into the draft. Just really showing that they have someone that feels quite confident on it, or they really value the poke that Junkrat can bring on Infernal Shrines. This time, it's like the tables have turned. Downfall are taking the Zarya away, and in fact, opting for an Abbot, though, who we generally never see on this map.
Yeah, he does pop up from time to time on rather specific maps, but this one is not usually the high priority maps for him, but it does make sense with what they have going. They want to just essentially go all in on this Phoenix. They went all in on the Hammer in the last game, and it looks like they're trying to play a rather similar style, but with some extra tools in the tool belt to help him along.
Indeed. Hovering that Malfurion ban now. Let's see if they're going to go ahead with that one. I think it's a smart ban. Now that they've got that Stukov, then we'll push Downfall into a little bit more of that support choke. But we saw last game, Downfall, they weren't too phased by that. They said, you got the Stukov, you banned the Malfurion. It's fine, we'll take something a little bit off meta. Morales, run with it, great.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that Malfurion ban. I mean, it does make sense because the Malfurion is still very good, but there are some options still on the board. As you mentioned, the Morales was just a fine pick because even though they had, Emprox had some tools to try and dive that backline, Konya on the Morales was safe throughout the majority of that game and wasn't allowed to just get all of that healing to those high priority members.
It was. The next ban now on the side of Downfall. I'm wondering, looking at the composition, I mean, you've got the Stukov, you've got the Junkrat. It's not really giving away too much of your composition. Who did they feel was threatening them? Do they want to then remove the Maiev, who they thought maybe, you know, the Phoenix might be threatened by, or will they go down another route?
The Maya would be a reasonable ban, but it is actually going to be the EGC just straight. As soon as I say something, it goes, yeah.
I was thinking the ETC, but I'm like, surely they wouldn't ban it. It wasn't giving them too much grief. So Krista did get a nice smosh. There wasn't a lot that they could do for following up, though. Not enough damage to finally take them out. As we said, the one that they need to kill, the Morales, was safe out of there.
Yeah, and I guess with that rather easy crowd control coming out from the ETC, they don't want to potentially get caught out on that Phoenix because, as we're mentioning, he does suffer a reasonable amount once he gets locked down just a little bit. And yeah, although that does leave a few other good options when it comes to the front line for the side of Emprox. Do they pick up the Diablo? They are going to pick up the Dahaka, so they want some of that global pressure to try and wrangle some kind of advantage in the big game, especially when on the other side you have an Abathur.
I do like that. Yeah, give yourself a global to counteract what's already on the board. Dahaka as well works quite well on this map, and that's really what Emprox's composition last time was missing, just that strong solo laner.
And they're actually going to be picking up the Varian, so not wanting to go for the Diablo, they go for the Varian, who does have that very strong power spike early on in the game. Being able to lock in that taunt at level 4, it does mean that they do have a rather early power spike that they can try and pick up some early kills against something like the Phoenix or any other potential squishy on the side of Downfall. But they need to have some more options to follow up to some of that damage, because the Junkrat, yes, he does do a reasonable amount of damage over the long game, but in just trying to follow up on a taunt, they don't really have all that much.
That's right. There's not a lot of that burst damage coming their way, and by picking Varian, you're also then weakening your wave clear. Yes, Varian can be quite good in terms of putting the pressure onto that Phoenix, but I'm then worried by mitigating a lot of that wave clear that you could have otherwise gotten by getting a different tank, even a Muradin or that Diablo, it might punish them a little bit.
Oh, here we go. We got the fancy picks coming out for the side of Downfall. Oh yeah, we got the Rhaegar to finish, or to pick up their support, and also the Chen. Alrighty then, so it's been a while since we've seen a Chen. He has had that little bit of a buff in the recent patches, and also we're going all the way back. Chen was one of those heroes that pairs reasonably well with an Abathur, similar to the Illidan Abathur combination, where it just makes it so much harder to deal with them, whereas Chen is already just obnoxious to deal with.
Yeah.
It makes it so much harder. So I'm intrigued to see how this plays out.
It is. Chen, he's funny, right? The sticking power that he has is so good, especially when you're just diving on in. I mean, Stukov could have his work cut out for him. If he doesn't go with that massive shove, he might also want to then go the other heroic to then peel for his team.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. Flailing Swipe is the other one that could work, especially if they do have some of the heroes coming at them. But looking at what Downfall have, you're mostly just going to be having that Chen, the one diving through. So maybe going for that massive shove will be the option to go for. But we are finally getting into the game. It was the Muradin last pick on the side of Emprox. So they will have that double front line. And so they've got a rather beefy lineup on the side of Emprox. But again, I'm a little bit worried about the amount of damage that they have.
Where's the damage? Where is the damage?
That is going to be the big thing of coming into this match. I mean, we got the Junkrat. If they can get these fights to last long enough, maybe that Junkrat damage can really start to stack up. But I'm just not really sure that they can really get that to work. After seeing how it went in the previous game, I still have my questions and doubts.
You want to be proven, right? Let the plane do the talking.
Exactly. This is a really odd composition. I think odd is just the one way I can really describe this composition coming out of Downfall. We know that they are the kind of weird and wacky kind of drafters, and they want to bring out something new each and every week, and it seems that this is going to be the week of Hammer and Chen for them as we are getting into the game. It is Infernal Shrines, and on the red side, 1-0 up in the series, it is Downfall. We have Flaze on the Zarya, we have Magic Gnome on the Phoenix, Shrek is back to the support on the Rhaegar, Superfish on Abathur, and Konya, away from the support duties, is now going to be on the Chen.
And on the blue side, we have Emprox with Chris O'Wow playing Muradin, Hashtag on Stukov, Ads playing Varian, the Ratzer on Junkrat, and Touch Me playing that Dahaka.
Yeah, I need to be convinced of this of them being able to get this composition to work. As the level 1, it looks like they're just going to completely avoid it yet again. Downfall not wanting to go for the straight 5v5, as they are just going to push down on the top side using the Zarya shielding and the healing. They're just going to pop down one of those towers right off the bat, get a little bit of an experience boost before the rest of Emprox can really do anything about that.
I actually really like that. I find going all mid is just the biggest waste of time and resources you can have, unless you've got someone who can capture someone out of position, or if you've got that, you know, someone that brawls really well at level 1. I'd much rather you settle into lanes or try and punish teams that do go all mid and then get that experience advantage. So nice move there by Downfall.
Yeah, and they are going to be able to just keep on pushing away the members of Emprox as they do catch out ADS as
he's bodying him up.
Or he is in a bad position. The rest of the team can't help him out, and that is going to be first blood.
Just got to feel bad. He tried to get himself out with the charge, but was taking too much damage there, Flays. Where is the damage? He gets caught out by the drag, and it doesn't even matter. With the towers helping dish that damage, it still wasn't enough.
Yeah, and they are just utilizing this Abathur to just keep on pushing in the one lane and having the Abathur try and soak the other lanes. And it's really starting to make a bit of a dent when it comes to the experience lead right now.
Yeah, you just don't want to be wasting time as well with these early kills. We know that kills can be quite, I guess, measurable in what they give for that experience, whereas you really do want the waves. Minions right here are your friends.
Absolutely, as we see the push still going in on the top side of the map. It looks like Downfall, they are not having anything to do with the rest of Emprox. They just want to just push structures down for days. They do take down those first 2 towers, and it looks like they're just going to back away. They do have level 4, a full level ahead of Emprox. But Emprox, they're trying to get some advantages elsewhere. They now have a camp pushing on the bottom side, and I have to wait and see if Downfall are going to react to it, or they're just going to keep on pushing on this top side.
Both teams just ignoring. It's like there's a 2-lane battlefield right here. They're ignoring. Either they think, all right, we'll have everyone in just 1 or 2 lanes. And I do like that touch me as well. He's like, all right, well, that's going to go. Not much I can do. I'm getting bullied here. I might give up a death. Instead, I'll rotate to that middle lane, try to really counteract that push that Abathur's bringing.
Yeah, and that's one thing to note. When you do have these Abathur compositions, until they get to level 10, they do tend to struggle. So it looks like Downfall just fully understanding that early game, they're not going to be able to really play the standard game. So they are just trying to get they're trying to accelerate the pace of the game by taking structures, get the experience there. But now we do have Emprox coming in for a defense. Magic Gnome does manage to get out of there with this shift, but they are just going to start turning around the fight. Konya is going to be the first one to go down, but they do trade it back immediately, trading the support for the front line. And Magic Gnome, it looks like he's going to be the next one to go down. He does get Concussion Mine back into the base of Emprox, and that's going to be a 2-for-1 in favor of Emprox.
Adds as well, not opting for that taunt. He has actually opted for Smash Varian. So he's going to be giving up a lot of that durability, a lot of that tankiness, but will get that burst damage. So this is what will help boost those numbers. Glad to see that they were happy to change up, I guess, a little bit of how Varian can build. And that's, I guess, one of the nice advantages of having a multi-class hero.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense now that you really look at the composition. Had they gone for the taunt, as we were discussing, they don't necessarily have the big follow-up damage to make the most of it, but with that Colossus Smash, they can really start to burst down some of these targets, as they are going to start coming in slowly. Downfall and making their way towards the point. But it looks like Emprox are going to have first nip of the point as they are almost halfway through this objective.
Oh, they're so split. There's a couple of fights heading up around the bottom as well as the top bit around the shrine. But neither team really giving up too much ground. We do have Emprox as well capturing over half of the little dudes. So setting themselves up nicely. If they can win this fight, they can then go in, finish off the objective and get the first one of the game.
Yeah, it looks like they're trying to get to level 7 first before making any kind of engagement, which they do get right now. And now it looks like they're trying to make their way onto the point. Chriso is going to be the first target of this fight, but they do turn it onto Shrek, who's dropped low very quickly with that Colossus Smash, but they're just going to keep on playing this fight back to front as Magic Gnome is going to start turning damage onto the Ratzer as he's not able to get the lockdown. But they, in the middle of the point, Chriso gets dropped incredibly low as the point is going to get secured eventually by the side of Downfall, and they don't actually lose anyone just yet, but they do manage to take down the Varian. It looks like they're trying to take down Touch Me, but they're not able to finish him off. Konya is going to get dragged into the structures of Emprox, but they do manage to finish him off. The shielding and the healing is going to be enough, and that is going to be the first Punisher. It's going to be an arcane Punisher going over to the side of Downfall.
It looked really nice for Emprox, but they just didn't have, after they got that level 7, they lost a little bit of that momentum. Everyone was quite split, and there was just no one that they could safely focus. You can see Magic Gnome as well, quite untouched, until maybe Not the blink there as well. So maybe overextended just a little bit, but didn't matter. Blink was ready.
Ooh, Colossus Smash goes down to Konya, but no follow-up as they are just going to keep on pushing there. First taking down this fort, the Punisher does get dropped, and this does force them away finally, but they are almost level 10, and at that point, they can really start to push the tempo.
Well, also that global pressure that Abathur is bringing is really helping them win that experience game as well, because Touch Me is being called into these fights, meaning that he's losing a little bit of that soak. So really, they want to be winning that objective when you call him away. Otherwise, they're going to lose a lot of soak for it. This is kind of that macro decision, that gameplay, where it can just be quite overwhelming, where you're like, all right, well, what do we want to do? We want to try to get everyone on point. Okay, but we're going to be giving up soak for this, so we better make it worth it.
Let's have a look at these heroics coming out from the side of Downfall. We have a Planet Cracker just blasting their way through to take down the Junkrat. There is also the Wandering Cake, and also the Bloodlust coming out for Shrek.
Gross. Downfall. This is disrespect by now.
It has been quite a while since we've seen
match,
this, but it does actually make a little bit of sense considering the heroes that they have on their team. The Phoenix.
It doesn't. This is disrespect.
It does make sense. The attack speed, you get the movement speed, and the lifesteal on hit, which does make sense considering the Phoenix and also the Zarya. So, I'm not going to defend it and say always a good pick, but you can see where it
I think they could pick anything right now and it wouldn't matter at this point.
Fair
and I
enough.
think that's also where they're sort of feeling with some of the weird and wacky picks that have been coming on out.
Yeah, it very much looks like it, and that is just going to be another fort going over to the side of Downfall. They're going to keep on pushing. They have just so much strength just pushing their way through. Shrek is going to find out Chriso in that rotation. Flaze gets thrown into the base. He does drop the Graviton and dies immediately. Great kill coming out for the side of Emprox, but can they get it to go any further? Touch Me is going to come in from the side. They don't manage to get the lockdown. The Wandering Cake is going to start bumping away the tire, and he manages to roll himself to relative safety, but he is going to get caught out as they do lock him down. Colossus Smash is going to really seal the deal there, but on the other side, they are going to start turning around the fight as Superfish is going to be coming in with the ultimate evolution. The Bloodlust is going to get popped. They do trade another kill, I guess, as that's going to be another falling for Downfall, and it's going to be a 1-for-2 in favor of Emprox, just stepping a little bit too far forward there, Downfall.
That's great. I'd love to see Emprox finally able to capitalize on a mistake that Downfall made. And this is going to be good, really helping them, I guess, balance out a lot of the experience that they were missing. So actually in a bit of a good position. I'd like to see them be able to capitalize more like this. They had also pretty decent focus during that fight. So wonderful to see on the side of Emprox, trying to bring this one back. So it's definitely, they really did need those kills.
Absolutely, and as we're looking at the experience, almost level 13 on the side of Downfall, they'll be looking to have their level 13s by the time this shrine is activated, and it is going to make it a little bit more awkward for Emprox to try and make their way to the point. If they could get a fight right this second, that would be the ideal opportunity for them to take, but it looks like they're not going to be able to really have too much time left before they're fighting up against talent here. Oh, and takes a lot of damage to Graviton Surge, and that is going to be also the Planet Cracker, but he does get interrupted immediately as they are going to be standing on locking on. He's doing a decent amount of work, but look at the amount of damage going off on the members of Emprox. They're just not able to handle how much is coming through. The Riptide does come through. His Shrek is going to be taken very low. He does get dropped by that Colossus Smash from ADS, but he is eventually going to die. That is going to be another one. It's going to be 3-for-1 this time in favor of Downfall, and they will be able to secure this objective.
You know, it was quite funny. I mean, we were looking at the Chen pick and we're saying, oh, you know, Chen, he really has that sticking power, but also it's been, I guess the hero has been that Wandering Keg. Every time, it's actually countering the Ratsa so heavily. Actually had to wait this time to use the Riptide because he saw last time, Connie just bumped it away. It was not going to go anywhere near his team. So this time, he had to wait, and it actually then they just didn't have that follow-up damage, and they took too much in return.
Yeah, and they just didn't necessarily have the sustainability over the course of the fight. With the Colossus Smash variant, as you mentioned, doesn't have the same durability as the Taunt variant, but they are able to get some kills to go their way because of it. It's just whether or not it's going to be enough to really counteract that. As in the mid lane, Touch Me is taking a lot of damage from the combined might, Konya and Shrek. And here comes the rest of the team. The Colossus Smash goes down onto the Phoenix, who takes so much damage. He's trying to get himself out of there. He does, but he goes straight into the face of Chriso. But that Wandering Cake is going to be helping Magic Gnome get back to safety. The Abathur is going to be able to shield him up as Ratsa does go throwing himself into the fray, but a little bit too far. And now they're going to start turning it around as Chris is going to be the next target. He doesn't have the dwarf toss just yet, and that is going to be yet another kill. 3 for nothing, going over to Downfall this time.
Downfall, they're widening the gap. With those back-to-back team fights that they've won, it's put them in a really nice position to pick up 16, and they also refrain from capping that last little dude to take the Punisher. So they really want to set themselves up nicely, make sure that they get as much experience as possible, and they'll be looking to try and end with this Punisher.
Yeah, it looks like they're trying to kind of make this one a quick series, as it was a reasonably quick first game, especially considering the map, and with the tools they have at their disposal. Level 16 coming up right now. And this is a massive power spike for the side of Downfall, and with this Punisher, although it is a mortar Punisher, so they don't necessarily have the good follow-up CC or damage from this Punisher as you would from some of the others, but they are going to keep on pushing through, I guess, in all lanes. They have just pressure in all 3 lanes coming out from Downfall and making it very hard for Emprox to really deal with it at this point. But they do actually have the ultimate evolution as they do lock down 3s. Oh, the Planet Crack goes across them and they just destroy them! And that is just too... getting dropped very low as Ratchet is trying to get himself out of there. He does manage to survive for just a little bit longer. ADS is going to be the next to fall. He is trying to deal with the Punisher and also the members standing right next to him, but that was a massive combination, just wrecking the members of Emprox. And it looks like, as you mentioned, Vandy, they are just trying to finish this one off nice and cleanly.
They are. That Planet Cracker and Graviton Surge combo was beautiful to watch. But this is going to be Downfall claiming this one. Also having a little bit of fun with the series in the night.
Yeah, they had a little bit of fun with that drafting. They do manage to finish it off rather cleanly in the end, and it is a rather convincing 2-0 victory coming from Downfall over Emprox.
The GG World players went out, and it was a pretty interesting series. I thought once we started to see that fight where Downfall overstayed, I was like, good. Emprox, they can maybe get back from this one. But it was the same time in, time out. As I said, the Rats, I felt like he wasn't able to do much. Yes, the damage numbers, he was able to top siege damage and hero damage for his team, but it wasn't really effective damage. It wasn't killing anyone. And a lot of the times as well, the Riptide, it wasn't able to achieve any value. He was just getting stopped at every opportunity that Downfall saw, they were going to shut him down. Yeah,
and especially with the characters build coming out from the Abathur, it made it so much... There was just so much more to push through. The shielding coming out, the extra healing coming out on all of the members of Downfall. It was just so much to push through. And with such a low damage composition, yes, you have the Colossus Smash to really wreck away a lot of that armor. It just still was not enough. Sure, they were able to get a couple of kills here and there, but it was just definitely not enough over those fights.
I mean, hear me out on this one, because Colossus Smash, it works very well with Burst. Would we have seen different results if he had gone Twin Blades? So at least they had some sustained form of damage coming out?
If you go Twin Blades, I think you're in a rather rough position as is, but it was a bit of a...
I mean, they don't really have any slows, and they didn't really have a lot of crowd control, so that's why I said Twin Blades could have been a better option.
Yeah, we can just go back and forth on the options when it comes to Varian all we want, but in the end, it was a rather... I'm not sure if we can say... ambitious draft coming out from Emprox. They had some ideas of how they could play these fights. Yes, we saw some great kills here and there, but it just wasn't necessarily enough. They weren't able to string them enough into objectives to really get the ball rolling. And because of the global pressure coming out from Superfish on their Abathur, Downfall just was in control of that entire game.
Alrighty, there you have it. Downfall taking this series out for this evening. But we're just going to jump to a short break while we set up for the next series, guys. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.